Hey, sorry it took a little long for me to get back to you guys, but it's been a long week and we're back. Hope you had a good weekend last weekend, although it was raining, so chances are a lot of plans got canceled last weekend, but this weekend looks good. It looks kind of sunny. Here's hoping for a better weekend this time. Alright, so let's get back to it. Let's recap last week's lesson. Was active listening. No, that's this week's lesson. Last week's lesson was your verbal handshake or your greeting. So, what's with the greeting again? Time for calling Power Mobile. Power Mobile is being our imaginary company, so Power Mobile. Time for calling Power Mobile. My name is James. How can I help? Okay. That greeting is basically your means of grabbing the customer, getting them into that conversation. You're asking, how can you help? Now, what's important? Now that you've opened that door and you've let the customer in, what's important? What's important is to actively listen. So, with active listening, we allow the customers to state their piece. What's the reason they're giving us a call today? What's the reason they're taking time out of their day to be on queue? Those of us who've had issues before with telcos or with services know what it's like to stay in the queue for a few minutes. Depends on the day. Maybe one particular day, maybe it's not so hard to get a customer representative in the line. There are days where it is. So we know what it's like to be on queue, or just the fact that lining up in a food court or lining up to get food that's queuing. Some days it's really easy. You get inside, you get your food, you go. Some days you have to line up because there's a long queue. That's the term queuing. So they've taken their time to come to us with their problem. What we can do is listen. First and foremost, sorry, it's been a long night. I've been doing a lot of stuff. So first and foremost, actively listen. Active listening means that we're attentive to the customer's concern and we are here to listen to what they are calling for today. Basically, that's it. And when we do it, we try to make sure that we're not interrupting, but maybe giving them verbal nods. Oh, okay. I see. So, for example, you'll have to excuse me, my accent's tuned right now for Australian because of my last two accounts were Australian accounts, so it's kind of like a Australian British hybrid accent thing. So yeah, good day to you. So the reason for the call is that I got a bill last month from last month's services. It's rather large. It's larger than I normally pay. I normally pay around $3.50. Now it's up to $4.50, and I want to know what's the reason for that. And is there any charges that have been added? Have I done anything wrong, or done anything to add services there that made the bill a little larger this month than it normally is? Okay, so yes, and this is apparent for a lot of accounts. Some of the accounts you'll get customers with different accents, but you can still kind of understand the reason for the call. The reason for the call is that they have a larger bill than they normally pay. Those of us who pay bills know what that's like. Especially if you're dealing with Meralco or power companies, sometimes it's fluctuating. It's higher sometimes, it's lower sometimes, especially during certain times of the year. So that could be a reason, but if it's the phone company, it's probably their usage. So let's see, let's probe into this. So what did the customer say? Customer said they have normally they pay normally $3.50, but now it's $4. That's where we got that from the statement, and they want to know what's the reason for that, and did they do anything to make it go larger, or has there been some kind of change? All right. You can say that, and you can paraphrase that to the customer. What now is paraphrasing? First was active listening, now paraphrasing. What's paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is simple. Paraphrasing is saying it in your own words. Oh, okay. So, from what I understand, the reason for your call is that you got your bill and you noted that it's higher than last month. You normally pay $350 and now you're seeing that it's $450, and you want to know what's the extra charges, as well as if did you do anything to make it larger than what you previously paid. Am I correct? So when you paraphrase, you say it in your own words so that you can confirm if you understood the customer correctly, and then you confirm it with the customer again. You don't assume, you simply confirm. Am I correct? Yeah, basically, yeah. So I got a much larger bill than last month. I just want to know the reason for why is it bigger than I normally pay. Yes, confirm. Okay, you're halfway there. You've got the customer's concern. You understood it. You confirmed that you understood it correctly with the customer. Good. Now, one of the frequent things that are frequently done by customer consultants is that they assume they know the customer's concern right away. Why is that? Because, admit it, in a day you take maybe hundreds of these calls if you're not lucky. If you're lucky, maybe 50 to 60 of these calls per day, give or take. Queuing, not queuing. So again, queuing. So what should you do when you're actively listening? Don't start to generate the solution. Just take that time to make sure you actively know what the customer is saying. You're listening, and then you can paraphrase it properly to the customer. And then once everything is done, that is when you start generating the solution. How do you start generating the solution? You look at the customer's accounts. You look at the customer's details. You take time to open your tools so that you can check the customer's details and what's going on. Now, each company has different tools. There's not one general tool to unite them all. It's not like Lord of the Rings where it's one ring to rule them all. Each customer has different problems. Each problem have different tools, and different companies have different tools to help the customers with. So take time to get it. What's the key thing that you need to ask? Key identifying details. And usually, what's the first thing you ask? Name. Now, big challenge for a lot of customers is that, especially for accounts that have British, Australian, or accents Filipinos tend not to be used to, their accent. We don't know how to, and even sometimes, you know what? When I worked for Australian companies, I had more accents that I didn't understand, and they were all British. Majority of it were, Australians, British, that sort of thing, Canadians, although Canadians sound like Americans. So, Australia, British, New Zealanders, they seem to have this old thing. But for the two Australian accounts I worked for, although I did work for a British account too, 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's a shift for you. 3 p.m. in the afternoon to 1 a.m. in the morning. Not a bad shift. But generally, one of the difficulties is their names, because we're not used to a lot of names and how they say it. Go back to active listening and breaking the customer's name down. So I'm gonna open up your account here now, so you can take a look what's going on. Can I ask for your name, for your full name? Yeah, my real name is William Schmoldes. Okay, William, I'm going to try to take a look at your details here. I got William. Can you spell your last name so I can make sure that I'm bringing up the correct account? Transparency is very good for your communication. And explain to the customer why you need to fully identify their full name so that you can bring up their account. That's why it helps to be transparent with the customer. Okay, that's smoldes. Smoldes like like when you have a fire, it's smoldes. No, smolders. But still, have him spell it out for you. How do you spell smolders? Now, there's smolders, 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 or maybe it's smolders, like small. Smolders, like smolders. There's your smolders, there's smolders. That's why it's important to spell the name out, because you don't want to assume. What if it's John Smolders, not William? William's kind of a unusual name, but what if it's John Smolders, more common name? And with your search, you pull up 50 John Smolders, or John Smiths. That's a common name, right? That's why spelling is important. Even the name William. Is it one L? Is it two L's? No, commonly William is two L's. So that's not a difficult thing. Or maybe they didn't even use William. Maybe they shortened handed their name. It's the Will, W-I-L-L. It's important for you to take time to understand the customer's details so that you can bring up their name and their account properly. So active listening, reconfirmation, breaking it down again. Usually the name is one of the key identifiers to bring up the account. In some companies, the customer's address is important, in which case you'll be having all sorts of different challenges with the street names. Sometimes I think in Xbox, when I worked for Xbox, it was the gamer tag, which is, well, kind of easy because it's your gamer tag. Like if his name is Smolders, his gamer tag could be Smolder 79, Big Smolder 79, something like that. All right. So each account has different things. Take time to make sure you're bringing up the right details to the customer, and not only will you start off the call great with a verbal handshake, but at least he knows that you're taking time to make sure the details are correct to help him properly. All right. Look, that's about it for the feedback for this week. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes back so you can use the bathroom or something like that, and make sure you put yourself back on calls. All right. Don't get stuck in aux somewhere. All right. So active listening, very important to make sure we get the details right, get the concern right, and start moving towards the customer's resolution. So have a good weekend. I hope you have great calls today, and see you next week.